Hi everyone, Chef Kevin Belton here with some more tips for you to do at home. Now, I don't know if it's happened to you, but these days you go into the grocery store to get what you need, and periodically sometimes things are not there. So, I don't know if you all have a picky eater at home, but we definitely have a picky eater. One of the things that he likes are pork chops. Well, I went to the store, they were all out of pork chops. But, I started thinking, why not, all of a sudden I saw this baby, this big pork loin. Now, if you notice, I already had to cut a piece off. Look how big this is. This is close to 10 pounds, and guess what? It was only $14.69. Can you believe it, for all of this? But I want to show you how not to be afraid of something like this, because you can cut it and make it into a lot of different things and get a lot of meals from it. Now, this piece here that I cut off, if you notice, you can see there's a little fat on the bottom, okay? Picture your typical pork chops with a little fat on, but they have no bone. Now, what I'm probably gonna do with this piece, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in either a Dutch oven, a pressure cooker, if you have an Instapot, let it cook low and slow, and basically I'm gonna probably take this baby and shred it. Now, I can have shredded pork with that. I can put that on a sandwich and make sliders. I can add barbecue sauce to it. I can put it in a baked potato. I can put it on salads. I can make a quesadillas, get your wrap, put some of that shredded pork and cheese, fold it over, press it down in the pan. So there's so much things you can do with the shredded pork. Now, when I do shredded pork, okay, I like to cook the pork roast depending on what you have. A little Coca-Cola in the bottom of the pan. Some of you may have a little beer in the bottom of the pan. If not, put a little stock or a little orange juice. It just adds flavor, okay? That moisture in there adds flavors as it's cooked. Now, what I'm going to do with this, if you find that you have a lot of pieces that you're not going to use them all at once, I'm going to wrap this in clear wrap. Once I get it wrapped in clear wrap, I'm going to put it in a freezer bag. Now, here's the thing. When you go to put things in your freezer, make sure you mark what it is and put the date on it, okay? That's the important thing. Put the date on it so you know what it is. But I'll show you a couple other things that you can do, okay? Now, when I'm dealing with pork and most foods, I like to keep, like when we batter stuff for seafood, frying, dry hand, wet hand, that type of thing. So here, I'm gonna work with one hand for the pork. Now, you may have seen some pork chops in the grocery store, the boneless, what they call breakfast chops, where they're just cut fairly thin. See, you can do this at home. You can make your own thin pork chops. Get you a nice sharp knife. I'm using a little boning knife here for this. But you see how thin that is? Depending on how thick or thin you want it. But that's often called a breakfast chop. But why not make regular pork chops? Depending on how thick you might like your pork chop. See, and there's that little layer of fat. Don't be afraid of that little layer of fat, because that'll add flavor as it cooks. So there you go. Cook it whatever size that you want, however thick you want it. The other nice thing is, I want to show you, let me cut a little thin piece here. Let me get the big knife. Cut a piece. There you go, baby. All right, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this in just a second. But I tell you, cut a chunk. Come on. We could take a piece like this. Take our boning knife. Now, if you notice, my knife doesn't go all the way to the end. I don't know if you guys can see that, okay? All right, see how it doesn't go all the way through? You want a piece at least this long. Basically, we're going to take our knife, stick it in the middle, and we can just turn our knife. Turn it, turn it, turn it. Now, once we get this done, we could take a wooden spoon. Some people use a steel. Insert in here and open this up a little bigger. When you open this up a little bigger, now in a pan, saute some onions, maybe with some spinach, put a little seasoning in it, turn the fire real low, add some cream cheese to that. Let that heat up, melt, and now you can stuff that inside the pork, okay? And now you have a filled chop, so when you cut it, you get that nice little filling inside. Now, if you're going to cook a chop like that, let me show you something. Something that's really important to have. You know, when we cook steaks, we always talk about temperatures. Growing up as a kid, pork was processed so different than it is now that grandma always cooked that pork way, way overdone. Because back then, the meat could have worms in it. I hate to be grody, but the meat could have little worms in it just because of the way it was processed back in the 60s. But in the mid-60s, early 70s, that all changed with the processing. You won't find that now. So when you cook pork, if you're cooking a whole chunk of it, if you're roasting in the oven, you want an internal temperature of at least 145 degrees. Now, if you get your little thermometer, this is one of the best investments you can make, is buying a little thermometer, okay? If I'm roasting this in the oven, I get it to 145 degrees, you may say, hey, I want it, that'll give it kind of like a medium rare, okay? Where it's a little pink on the inside, and it's okay to eat pork a little rosy on the inside. But when you take it out at least 145 degrees, when you let it just sit and rest, guess what? That temperature will keep rising, okay? If you like pork well done, you want an internal temperature of 165. But I've cooked them, taken them out of the oven right at 145 degrees, let them rest, and in just 10 minutes, that temperature is already up to 155 degrees, okay? So remember, things keep cooking as they go on. And I have to tell you, gang, Monica, my wife, is filming, and I've been talking about pork chops so much. Cookie's on the sofa watching. She jumped off of the sofa and walked over, and she's like, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? And now she's back laying down on the sofa going, hurry up, Daddy, hurry up. Can you please hurry? All right? So, gang, remember, get your little thermometer, a minimum of 145 degrees, take it out, let it rest. It'll keep cooking on the inside, but don't go past 165, because that way, then it starts to really dry out. You don't want it dried out, okay? Another thing we could do, besides the nice piece here where we have it cut in the center, the other thing we could do with this, if you cut a nice thick slice, see how thick that is? All right? Take your knife, lay your palm flat. Take your knife and just make a slice. Just hold your palm, make a slice. All right, open it up. I wish I could do it the other way so you could see what I'm doing, but basically, look at that. Basically, I just butterflied it. That's a butterfly chop to where now, if we want, we can make a little filling, put into this, fold it over, and go ahead and bake that in the oven, all right? If you just want to make a pocket, like on this one we cut earlier, you could just make a small pocket in it and then stuff something in that in just a pocket, but it's easier if you just hold it flat, take your knife and just slowly go in, and you can peel it back to see where you're going, and just butterfly it. Because you can make like a nice cornbread dressing that could go right on top of this, or you could make a nice, anything you want, that spinach that we talked about earlier, with the cream cheese and the onions, that could go right in here and just fold it over, and that'll bake in the oven. All right? Now, one last thing I want to show you. Here, I was talking about doing a breakfast piece really thin. Well, now, how about this? You know, growing up, Grandma always talked about pané meat. Pané is the French term to pan fry, okay? And it was often done with veal. But how about making some pané pork, all right? Or like a cutlet. I have clear wrap. I've put this on the clear wrap. Remember that nice thin cut. And now, take a little mallet. And if you notice, I'm kind of hitting it and going away as I'm doing it. Let me move this knife. Turn it. And you know, if you've been trying to teach the kids their lessons at school, and I don't know what kind of math that is these days, it's like, please help me teach those children. Oh, please, please help me teach those children. Because we get frustrated. I mean, what happened to the days of 2 plus 2 and 4 plus 4? And now it's like this angle is the y of the z and the x, and wait, is it math or is it English? I don't know. But look at this. Nice and thin. Look how thin that is. All right, just pound it out. All right, put a little breadcrumbs on it. Dredge in a little flour if you want. Caesar, dredge in a little flour. Pan fry it. There you go. So with the rest of this, remember, wrap it up really good in clear wrap. If you decide to cut your pork chops, go ahead and cut your pork chops. I would put 2 in each piece of clear wrap. When you put them in the Ziploc and put them in the freezer, if you lay them down, say you just want to grab, say you have 8 in the bag, open it up, and now you can just grab 2 at a time. All right? That way you don't have to take them all out and defrost them all at the same time. So just wrap them up 2 at a time. If you want to go ahead and butterfly some, just remember, on your bag, write butterflied or write pocketed. That these pork chops have the pocket in it, all right? But go ahead, cut the chunks. If you're not sure what to do, just cut it in big chunks, wrap it up, double wrap it, in the Ziploc, in the freezer bag, in the freezer, and there you go. So I hope this has helped with some of the things that you want to do. The other nice thing is, in the grocery stores we see seasoning ham, the little cubed ham. Hey, if you've got a lot of this, cut this up in cubes and saute that to go into beans. Or if you're cooking greens, put that down in greens. Just use it a whole lot of different ways. And if you're fancy enough at home to do some pickling, if you've ever pickled some vegetables, hey, take a piece of pork, pickle it, keep it in the refrigerator, and now you can make your own pickled meat for your beans or greens. So I really hope this has helped. Don't be afraid. So when you see that big pork loin, don't be afraid of it. Remember, 145 degrees, a minimum temperature. Even when you take out of the oven, it'll keep cooking. No higher than 165 degrees, because past 165 degrees, that's where it dries out. So I hope you're safe. I hope you're having a great time with the family, spend time with the family. Keep washing those hands. Keep practicing distance. And I know it's hard because I miss seeing a lot of family and friends and giving them hugs. So keep doing what we're doing, because we'll be much better for it. I love you guys. We'll see you all soon. For WWL TV, I'm Chef Kevin Belton. Have yourself a great day. And hey, Cookie's excited because she's getting a pork chop for dinner. We'll see you soon.